I worked in entertainment for 5 years in various assistant roles. An assistant production coordinator or production secretary on studio films. I was personal assistant to Nastasia Kinski when she was in New York City filming Town and Country. Then I moved over into the William Morris Agency and their agent trainee program, which is basically being an assistant on steroids, if you will. It's funny when you know graduates of Harvard or Yale Law School are competing to get into the mailroom at William Morris and push a mail cart as an agent trainee,
Wow.
because that's really the stepping stone in terms of working your way up. And I moved from William Morris to USA Films, assisting the chairman there while we were making the movie Traffic, which was by Steven Soderbergh and starring Michael Douglas.
Welcome to Rochester Business Connections, powered by Balbert Marketing, LLC, where I get the chance to chat with Rochester, New York's very best business owners, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. I am your host, Ben Albert. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, we don't do advertisements. My fee for this show is simple. If you gain value from the episode, personally share with a friend and explain your favorite part. Let's get started. I am here with Ethan Bull. Ethan, what's up? How are you this afternoon?
How you doing, Ben?
Dude, I'm doing good. I'm really excited to learn a little bit more about what you do. You are the co-founder of ProAssisting, and let me just pass the torch. Give us a bird's eye view of exactly what you guys do at ProAssisting, Ethan.
Yeah, sure. We launched in 2018, and we are remote executive assistants. And both of my wife and I have been career executive assistants for a long time. Spent a lot of years in New York City, and then we moved back up here about 6 years ago. And through our network, my wife got a client. A consultant to Fortune 100 companies who traveled around the world and didn't really care where her assistant was, but did need support. And that started really opening our eyes to the remote support world. And I guess at that point, we really felt that technology had caught up enough to where we could do what we do remotely.
I love it. And we'll get into remote work in a little bit. With COVID, it's huge, right? I'm wondering for people that are like me and they're not massive yet and they don't have an executive assistant, for anyone who is in the business world and doesn't quite understand that term, what exactly do you do as an executive assistant?
Well, when give you a little bit of background,
Sure.
I started my assistant career in the entertainment industry, which is an industry known for using the assistant position as a stepping stone or your entry into the world of entertainment. I then transitioned over to advertising, assisting the chief operating officer of $1 billion ad agency. My wife during that time was assisting two different hedge fund CEOs, as well as the CEO of J. Crew, Mickey Drexler. And really at that level, we really view the executive assistant role as being a business partner, a project manager, a chief of staff, an assistant slash scheduler, and a personal assistant. Really being that single point of contact for the principal so they can have a 7-minute conversation with their assistant and their to-do list goes from 15 things down to 2.
I love this. And a lot of people listening are like, wow, I need a person like that in my life. When's the point that someone should be considering hiring on an executive assistant? Is there a certain level that you need to be at before you can basically justify that role?
I would say as soon as possible. There are a couple of articles written in the Harvard Business Review that say that the executive assistant or your assistant should be your first hire.
Wow.
It just it really starts to free you up in terms of being able to focus on revenue generating and networking opportunities really early in the process. And the beautiful thing about where we are today is that there are a lot of options spanning a lot of different price points to find that support. You do not need to hire a full-time assistant when you are a 1 or 2 or even 5-person shop. There are many different options.
Yeah, and it sounds like virtual, not having someone have to come in the office and pay for them to have a desk in the office, so on and so forth, has to be a lot more affordable. Let's get into that because we kind of teased it. Are you guys 100% virtual? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, really the world of virtual assistants kind of took off with the publication of Tim Ferriss's book, The 4-Hour Work Week. And
which by now was a long time ago, Ethan. That was quite a while ago that came out.
It was, and he was an advocate of leveraging $5 an hour assistance out of the Philippines, and we've come a long way. There are a lot of virtual assistant companies in the United States, and given both mine and my wife's experience, we kind of fit in a different space. We consider ourselves remote executive assistants, and we can get into the differences between where we position ourselves compared to where a virtual assistant may reside. But there's a whole rainbow of options from that $5 virtual assistant in the Philippines all the way up to hiring a full-time assistant and anywhere in between.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those differences between that virtual assistant from the Philippines that's maybe answering emails and a remote assistant that is here, and ultimately, I presume it's more boutique, but a lot of people are wondering, why not just pay the person $5 in the Philippines? Well, why should I work with Ethan or your company or just anyone here in America on this kind of thing?
Yeah, sure. A lot of it has to do with questions surrounding what level of experience are you getting from your assistant at $5 an hour, or $15 or $30 an hour? What's the turnaround time? How focused are they on your business? How many clients are they serving on a day in and day out basis? And all of those things go towards the level of support that they're going to be able to provide you. A lot of, CEOs and founders of companies, let's say they've gotten their Series A round of funding and they just got $3 million in the door and they're trying to scale, and they need someone to interface with their investors, with their potential clients. Wow. There's a level of emotional intelligence and polish that comes with working with someone who actually has years of experience as an executive assistant compared to someone who maybe doesn't have that experience, but is still filling a role as a virtual assistant in a lesser form. And again, there's nothing inherently wrong with working with a virtual assistant or working with us as a remote executive assistant, but our price point is higher given the level of experience that we have with our assistants and their careers. These are assistants who could command 6 figures in major metropolitan areas. We limit the number of clients that our assistants have to 3. So they're able to really provide that full service support day in and day out, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And, given that, we are at a higher price point and we are career executive assistants, we've kept our business really lean so we can compensate our assistants, I believe, the highest in the remote support space as of today, and really compensate them commensurate with their experience. There are a lot of companies out there that, even US based assistants where you're paying the company $45 an hour and, they're paying their assistants $18 or $20 or $22 an hour. And there's a level of support that comes with that. And a number of clients that those assistants have to support compared to a maximum number of 3 that we have. that's kind of the positioning that we found when we were doing a deep dive on the remote support world before we launched ProAssisting. We really felt that there was a gap between hiring a full-time assistant and going with a virtual assistant who maybe is supporting clients at 5 or 10 hour chunks and has 8 or 10 or 12 clients. That wasn't a space where neither Stephanie nor I felt that we fit. But we do feel that there's a gap between where that is and where hiring a full-time assistant is. And that's kind of where ProAssisting sits.
Yeah, it's great to be able to fill that gap where you don't need someone in the office the whole time, but you do have someone who's hands-on. And as you mentioned, they're only working with maybe 3 other people. One thing that stuck out to me, I got like a million questions from what you just said, but one thing that stuck out to me was the emotional intelligence aspect. Because I know personally, I run a marketing company. If there's certain graphic design and IT are the big two. Graphic design and IT, I will sometimes freelance that out to a couple really talented freelancers that don't live in this country. There's a couple tasks that I will freelance out. But there's certain things like customer service, client acquisition, talking to investors, talking to the C-suite level people that I don't want to give that to someone who doesn't have the emotional intelligence and the understanding that they can basically meet my clients on their level. Is that kind of the part of the secret sauce? Tell me a little bit more about just that emotional intelligence and that ability to work with maybe C-suite level people and not make a fool out of yourself,
Yeah. When you're working for a high net worth individual and you're representing them with everyone from the gardener who cuts their grass every Saturday all the way up to the chairman of the board of their most important client,
Wow.
you have to be very fluid in how you interact with that level of people all the way through. And that's, we say we stole this from Danny Meyer, who's a restaurateur in New York City, but we do say we're a 51-49 company, meaning, we look for that 49% of technical ability and experience on the resume, but then that 51% is, the emotional intelligence, the work ethic, the sense of hospitality, a servant's heart, really understanding that you're there to present the best face for your boss's office and the company as a whole. Usually at our level, we are supporting the CEO or a C-suite executive. And that's really important. And that's something that comes with time, with understanding, with knowing that you're a career executive assistant, and a sense of hospitality. When we're looking for executive assistant partners, I'm constantly looking for a service-oriented background, whether that be in the restaurant industry or in the hotel industry or something that's really client or customer facing, combined with their experience of, managing multi-city trips for their boss who's traveling through 6 different countries and pulling off a holiday party for 45 people and all of those kind of things as well. So we think it's really important. We call it high touch hospitality. Another restaurateur, Bobby Stuckey out of Colorado, has an amazing 8-minute video called How to Be a Hospitality. And he runs an Italian restaurant, and he really believes that hospitality can be infused in all aspects of your life, where service is something you do to someone, while hospitality is how you make them feel. So it kind of rides on top of service. You have to get through providing great service to get into the realm of providing hospitality.
Wow, it's how you make them feel. And isn't that the point, to transfer good emotions, to transfer success, to actually help people? I love this. This is not a fact, but from my experience, my listeners, they want to learn and they want to help. They want to network. They want to support the community. What I'm wondering, if someone's going through a career transition or they're into customer service, hospitality, they have that background, they have that emotional intelligence. They're curious, are you partnering with more people right now, or what's your situation with bringing on new partners or bringing on new employees and all that?
Yeah, we partner with our executive assistants, so they are 1099 subcontractors. We
Got it.
require that all of our independent contractors create their own LLC. So they're in essence creating their own mini business, and we are a platform for them. Once we both agree to partner with each other, then we can start providing them with clients. Some of our assistants want all three of our clients from us. Some of our assistants already have support work outside of our relationship, and then they maybe only need one or two clients from us to complement their roster of clients. So when we're kind of an expert two-sided marketplace, if you will,
Yeah.
and in that sense, we have to be balanced, because I can't bring on a bunch of assistants and not have client work for them. And once I have clients coming in, that's when we're gearing up. And so it kind of goes in waves. It's more along the lines of kind of, going to our site. We have a join our team page that's located in the footer of our website, and filling out the application and seeing if we're the right fit. There are a lot of other opportunities out there with a lot of other companies at varying levels of experience. So we really do stress that our assistants do have that, 5+ years of C-suite experience where they have been doing it, and gives them a solid foundation to kind of fit into what we're doing. But there are a ton of options out there. There's a lot of virtual assistant training opportunities out there as well. If you are able to invest a little bit in your own education to get up and running. And, I have conversations with assistants who maybe don't match up with what we're providing, but, they do have great skills. They have great heart. They're really upbeat and want to make this work. I even suggest going out on your own and just trying to get those first 1, 2, 3 clients, and you'll be surprised at how quickly it can snowball, even without partnering with a company. Especially right now, there is a lot of opportunity out there.
Yeah, so get the training, the opportunities there, and be a go-getter, go bring in clients. But it sounds like the partnership opportunity is great because it's an opportunity where you can provide them some of these vetted clients. What was I going to ask you? I'm wondering. I drew a blank on this one. I had a thought I wanted to ask you, and I totally drew a blank on this one, Ethan. Because ultimately, oh yeah. So I'm wondering, because when I hear 1099 and I hear that kind of relationship, is this a part-time expectation where I can do it on the side, or do you really need people to commit like a full-time engagement to make that work?
Yeah, we actually do. Because what we're selling our clients is remote executive assistants that is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, in their desired time zone, after hours and on weekends in very atypical situations, like your pipe bursts on a Saturday and you need to find a plumber, so you can reach out to your assistant and see if they can help.
Yes, right.
Or after hours and on weekends, should you be traveling, tracking the flights, making sure the rental car is set, the pickups are set, no last minute things need to be juggled around or handled. But that Monday through Friday commitment needs to be there. We charge a flat retainer of $3,000 a month, and for that you're getting 1/3 of the resources of one of our assistants, and we're passing 80% of that on to our assistants. And that was designed from the get-go to where we created our business to be very lean, so we could pass such a large portion of our flat retainers onto our assistants. And so along with that comes the responsibility that, you are in charge of your own day, but you also have to be able to have quick turnaround. That's probably one of the biggest things about working with someone remotely is that, can they answer your phone call 80% of the time? And during that other 20%, can they get back to you within, 15 minutes? And our assistants can, again, because we're limiting them to a maximum of 3 clients. And that's the kind of support that we're providing. There are other opportunities for remote support when you're talking about project-based work. Something that maybe, going through a list of, prospects for a salesperson or a sales company and, weeding out the ones that aren't even worth calling. And then picking out pockets of time during your day to when you could do something like that. That's a different kind of role. And that's something where you may be able to find remote support or virtual support that can do that and is not bracketed by the 9 to 5 day.
I love everything about this model. I love how customer centric it really is, that as a customer, as a client, they get their person whenever they really need it. And I love the model and the fact that I have found that my company, Bauer Marketing's, worked because of that. I'm very hands-on. I work directly with my clients, and they can call or text me 24 hours of the day. And I'm thinking, if I want to scale my marketing company, I don't want to fall into that checks and balances, multiple departments, multiple reps, outsource madness. I love that leanness of you have one person and they're yours. They're your assistant, whether the pipe breaks. I love how lean and I love how customer centric that is. It's a great model. There's one thing, Ethan, I wanted to talk about because I wrote in my notes and I can't remember what it means. 29-hour workday. Forget what that means. I thought there was only 24 hours in the day. What's going on here, Ethan?
My wife and I are publishing a book. It's coming out in April of 2022, and it is called The 29-Hour Workday, How High Performers Leverage Their EAs. And it's really about how you can use our performance multipliers, that being a business partner, a chief of staff, project manager, assistant / scheduler, and personal assistant, to add 5 extra hours into your day. It's a little bit of play against Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week.
Okay.
And It's really about, there are a lot of books out there about how to be a great assistant. Someone who is an assistant, like in my shoes, can read it and maybe pick up some tips and tricks and whatnot. But there aren't many books out there teaching you how to use an assistant. And we kind of wanted to look at it from that direction, take our experience and condense it down into kind of an instruction manual for a C-suite executive who either wants to make sure they're getting the most out of their current assistant or wants to learn how to use an assistant effectively and efficiently right out of the gate when they get their first one. And that's kind of who the book is geared towards.
I love that. I mean, it's almost like a leadership manual for a C-suite, because I'm thinking about it. A lot of times my assumption is always a training manual of how to be a good assistant. In this case, it's actually teaching people how to get the most out of their assistant, because again, it's a partnership, right? So you want that relationship to work. Why not train the person how to be a leader, get the most out of their assistant? This is the book written and just not published yet? How far? I want it now. Can I get an early copy?
We're just in the process of finalizing our blurbs.
Yeah.
We've had author photos taken, the covers locked. We're finishing revisions. It's got to go through proofing and all of that and layout. The publisher's working diligently on that side of things. What we found, going back to your point for a minute, it's interesting. we have a lot of non-executive board directors as clients, and these are folks who sat in the C-suite of Fortune 500 companies, and had an amazing career, had an assistant throughout their whole career, and then now they're sitting on 4 or 5 different board of directors in their retirement, if you will, and they don't have the executive assistant support that they did have.
Oh.
This book really isn't for them. They know how to use their assistant. They've used an assistant for 30 years, and but we also have a few attorney clients who broke off on their own, worked for some large firms, and law firms are notorious for making sure that their employees, their partners, if you will, never use their assistants for personal things. And some companies put a really hard line between what is business and what is personal.
Sure.
And we try and get those kind of clients who are working with us to open up and convince them that, no, we really can do personal things. We can take your kids' soccer games and add them to your calendar so you're not double booking and using 2 different calendars. We can research the tires you need to put on your car because they're bald and it won't pass inspection. We can research and book personal travel with your family and your kids and everything. So, sometimes, that's kind of partially where the book is coming from too, in terms of trying to get people to open their minds in terms of how can they really best leverage the support that we're able to provide. So, it's a tale of 2 cities, if you will.
I love it. I mean, talk about leverage. The amount of hours that'll go back on your calendar if you're not researching balding tires and all these little things, that is incredibly helpful and incredibly necessary. I forget if I asked you this. When and where did you get your start? How did you get your start in this industry? Where'd you learn all this?
Yeah, I went to Bentley University outside of Boston. It was Bentley College back then, and it was a specialty business school. And I traveled to Australia and kind of really fell in love with music and playing music and whatnot. And I came back and wanted to kind of marry business and entertainment or music. And I started working for Elektra record label, which is under the Warner Elektra Atlantic label way back when in the mid 90s. And through that experience, that was my senior year, they were connected to Warner Brothers, obviously. And I found a job as a production assistant on the movie Addicted to Love in New York City, starring Matthew Broderick and Meg Ryan, and directed by Griffin Dunn. And I went down there and I kind of fell in love with entertainment, with movies, with writing and acting. And, I worked in entertainment for 5 years in various assistant roles, an assistant production coordinator or production secretary on studio films. I was personal assistant to Nastasia Kinski when she was in New York City filming Town and Country. Then I moved over into the William Morris agency and their agent trainee program, which is basically being an assistant on steroids, if you will. It's funny when, graduates of Harvard or Yale Law School are competing to get into the mailroom at William Morris and push a mail cart as an agent trainee.
Wow.
Because that's really the stepping stone in terms of working your way up. And I moved from William Morris to USA Films, assisting the chairman there while we were making the movie Traffic, which was by Steven Soderbergh and starring Michael Douglas. And then, Barry Diller told my boss that he needed to cut his overhead. I was his second assistant, so I was the one to get let go. And that kind of pushed me towards advertising, which is, again, another really type of industry that leverages their assistants to move up. And I ended up working for the chief operating officer and chief strategy officer at Deutsch, and for 13 years, and worked my way up as I was still assisting them to be director of admin services. So I was overseeing a team of about 12, 13 assistants, and we were supporting about 60 ad executives. It's funny, when I was in New York City going through all that, I really looked at the assistant role as being um, my day job. And I published a graphic novel. I've written a number of screenplays. That was really my passion, and where I was looking to go. And I still have that passion, and it'll definitely come around again. But it's funny how you turn around and you blink, and poof, 15 years have gone by, and you have a career in front of you as a top level executive assistant. And it's funny, my wife was doing the same work in finance, and she was making about 4 times the amount of money I was, even though we were doing very comparable, similar things, just based on the industry. And it's a vital role, and it's a behind the scenes role. And that's kind of how I got into it. And then, as I said, you turn around 15 years later and you have a career, and that wasn't even part of the plan. And having the business background really kind of, I think, helped in terms of when we were developing the model for ProAssisting, and being out of New York City and realizing, here in Rochester, a lot of times the assistant role is different than being, a high level executive assistant in New York City. The demands are different, and it's a different kind of role. And so, wanting to really still leverage our experience and maximize our compensation, we decided to kind of look outside the box, and that's kind of what brought us here. The funny thing is before COVID, we were always having to explain how remote work worked, and now we don't have to explain that anymore. And so, in the short term, meaning 2020, it was a break. Luckily we had a list of foundational clients that really supported us and stuck with us, but no business was coming through the door. And then, right when 2020 hit a year ago, at this time, it was like a gun went off, and we've tripled our business, and I think we'll triple it again this year, coming year. It's kind of, people are really opening their eyes in terms of what can be done remotely, and how to keep a company lean, how to keep, knowing that you can get great support, for a fraction of what it would cost to bring on someone full time.
Well, first off, that's incredible, Ethan. Congratulations on the massive growth. I hope you triple again next year. That'll be kick butt.
Thanks.
Random question, whether it's a podcast, a book, a video series, do you talk about this stuff at length? Because 15 years go by like poof, but you must have like a million stories from those 15 years. Like, holy moly. Have you thought about having a podcast or a book on all those experiences?
No. Well, some of them were under NDA, so I wouldn't be able to be as colorful in terms of sharing that. It's not. We've got. I've ridden in a limo with Warren Beatty.
Yeah.
And all the way to having Sandra Bullock get me coffee pretty much every day for 3 months. That kind of stuff was in the entertainment world back in the late 90s. I really enjoy the kind of stuff where your principal really values your partnership and is asking you about how you felt about a certain candidate that came in to interview for a high level role, how you feel about a new ad campaign and the different options available, how you feel. Do you have any ideas on what we should do this year for the holiday get together? When a principal is looking at you more as a partner, there's a really, it's fulfilling in that regard, knowing that you're valued and trusted, and a key player in the world, even though on the outside you kind of don't even want to know other people to know you even exist. And it's kind of that kind of balancing act.
I mean, I love that concept. The big shots are buying you coffee, but you don't need to have the limelight and the stress and the attention. I'm wondering, so you're in New York City for quite some time, 15 plus years, poof goes away. What brings you here to Rochester, New York? What brings you to this region? What brings you here from New York City?
I grew up in Canandaigua.
Mm.
I honestly was not too fond of growing up here because I felt it was too small,
Yeah.
and there was no anonymity in Canandaigua, New York, and so I ran away to Boston and then to New York City. And 25 years later, when you have your second son, and life changes, and my wife fell in love with Canandaigua over the years, and so we decided to move back, and we bought a house a block away from the house I grew up in, that
Wow.
my mom still owns and lives in half the year, and it's very Norman Rockwell-y. And I guess I would say that when I went away to college, I went and visited a lot of my friends' hometowns, and when you have that, the benefit of perspective, it really opened my eyes to how amazing a place this is that we live. And in the 20 years that I was away, um, you know, Rochester in general, the food scene, the wineries, all the breweries, the music scene, there has always been just an amazing music scene of these just amazing musicians that are in the Bristol Hills, or
Hmm.
up near Lake Ontario, that you would never know. Maybe it's because of Eastman, but Rochester is a great town. You've got skiing in the winter, you've got the lakes in the summer, and now that I'm a father with two sons, I do want to keep my thumb on them, and know what they're up to, and have them, you know, um, grow up here. And yeah, we're not leaving. I mean, at some point when our kids are out of high school, we will definitely be spending winters away from here.
Hmm.
But we will always have our foothold here in Canandaigua, New York.
Yeah, it's a great place to live. I love everything you said. I mean, the music's incredible, entertainment, culture, food, anything you can ask for. And who knows, maybe your kids will run off somewhere like you did. I'm not trying to spell that upon your family that they're gonna go do that, but perspective, right? It brought you back to Canandaigua. I'm wondering, in terms of like entertainment and music and anything like that, any hot spots, any things that you love to do on the weekend, any recommendations you have?
Uh, I mean, I mean, again, it's kind of been, Canandaigua itself has been
Yeah.
blowing up with new restaurants and breweries. We're really social. We like to go out. It's tough right now. Is really tough
Hmm.
given the surge in COVID with Omicron and
Right.
whatnot. So we're being somewhat careful. But when the numbers start to come back down, we'll definitely be getting out. You know, um, Other Half, which was amazing. What was crazy about Other Half Brewing is that they were right across the river from where we lived in Long Island City, New York, in Brooklyn.
Oh yeah,
And
they are from
when
down
they
there.
yeah, when they bought the place in Bloomfield, um, that day when the news broke, I had four different friends from New York City call me and say, "Wait, do you live near where Other Half bought?" And I'm
Like
like, "Yeah,
right
it's like
down the
6 miles
road.
away." And they're like, "Oh, we're coming to visit." And I'm like, "Wait, you weren't coming to visit anyway?" But Noble Shepherd, Other Half
Yeah.
Brewing, and then in Canandaigua, Frequentum has kind of blown our mind with what they did with an old burned dairy store.
Hmm.
They completely turned it around, just total makeover to where it feels very modern. Brewing great beer there, Peacemaker. It's tough because venturing out to the city, now we call the city Rochester, to where before we always called the city New York. So
Right.
there's a lot of opportunity, but yeah, in terms of our kids, we want them to go away.
Yeah.
We want them to go far away, and experience life outside of this somewhat idyllic bubble that we have here. because that's, if they come back, great. If they don't, that's great too. But yeah, no, we're definitely pushing them out. It may be hard if one of them gets into RIT or Cornell, but other than that, it's like, let's go further. So we'll see.
I appreciate that. That's hard for a father, a family man to say, but go off, experience the world, right? I mean, that's what you did, right? So
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it.
Absolutely.
I want to get you out in time, so we're gonna go to the rapid fire round, and these are
Okay.
literally a lot of them are either or fill in the blank. You can cross them all out. You can say whatever you want. The points don't matter. The answers are completely subjective to Ethan and your thoughts.
Sure.
I like to start it with coffee or tea.
Uh, Iced mocha.
Iced mocha. Ice. Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Mornings or evenings?
Evenings.
Do you have a favorite season locally?
Summer.
Summer. I say
Yeah.
locally because I remember like, it depends on where you live, right?
If I was in New York City, it would be springtime and fall. But up here, it's summer. Yeah.
Do you let me I haven't asked this one much. Do you have a favorite band? Do you have a favorite musician, anything like that?
Um, I have so many. I do play.
Mm.
I love Dave Matthews, and that might make some people cringe, but also, I mean, classic rock going from the Grateful Dead to Led Zeppelin to you know um, any of those in between that way back when is always favorites of mine too.
Oh, Dave Matthews, he can't please anyone. I mean, bacon makes some people cringe. I don't know. I love bacon. That's just me. But what instrument do you play?
I play guitar, piano, percussion, and I sing.
Wow, multi. Is guitar the number one? You started with guitar. Where'd you get your
I
start?
started with guitar. It's funny enough. I've over the last couple of years, a graduate of the Eastman School of Music who is 76 years old now has become my piano teacher, and so
Hmm.
I have been very diligently making my way through all of my scales, all of my arpeggios, 4 octaves up, 4 octaves down, and so I think my proficiency in piano is an understanding of piano is a lot more than guitar, but I do love to pick up the guitar and play and sing.
Yeah.
And I'm getting there with piano as well.
Yeah, they're very different tangibly playing the guitar and singing versus piano, completely different technique and everything.
Yeah.
We'll do one more. It could be a book, podcast, YouTube channel, but give me like 1 to 3 or 4, however many come to mind. Just action steps like homework. If I were to go listen to a podcast or read a book, where do you get your information, inspiration from? Who are you listening to? Who are you reading, Ethan?
I'll give you a couple. One is, it may sound dead, but I don't know if you know of RSS readers. Um, I leverage my RSS reader. I leverage it for politics. I leverage it for startup worlds, startups, business. I leverage it for technology. A lot of those things interconnect. And I leverage it for staying up to date in Hollywood, what's selling in terms of stories and whatnot. So if you want to try and, keep up with a lot of different topics, I would suggest downloading an RSS reader to your phone, start subscribing to RSS feeds. I've been doing it for 15 years longer. And it's something to scroll through and read while you're waiting in line for your coffee or whatnot. And it becomes really tailored to you. For this audience in particular, the podcast that has just overwhelmed me over the last year is Built to Sell. And Built to Sell is by John Warlow, and he's a Canadian, and he has over 300 interviews with entrepreneurs and business owners who have exited their company. And he's all about how to set up your company from the beginning, about what makes a saleable company. and what, and then he gets into the details with all of these founders about, you know, what was the multiple that you sold at? Was it based on revenue, or was it based on EBITDA? Was it based on IP? How did you get there? What was the negotiations like? And he's created this whole system called Built to Sell about, you know, how does your company rate in terms of being a saleable asset? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. You know, and it doesn't hurt to think about that now. And he's such a good interviewer, and he interviews such a wide swath of companies that you'll be able to find something that kind of matches or mirrors your company. Given that we are a service-based business, it's been really interesting to learn how service-based businesses are valued differently than SaaS businesses that are valued differently than product businesses. So if you're not keyed into Built to Sell Radio and John Warlow, that is my big plug. And you can, and there are many, many episodes you can listen to for that one.
I'm literally going to pull it up and subscribe right now. Built to Sell. Ultimately, yeah, we all need an exit strategy. We don't have a company without an exit strategy, right? So everyone
well, it's
knows.
About it. Do you have, is your, especially with service-based businesses, are you creating yourself a job, or are you creating yourself a business? And, you know, Stephanie and I have worked a full load of clients, both of us, which has really given us the foundation to really grow and launch this company. But we've always known that the goal is to slowly transition out of working in the business to working on the business. And it can be very hard for service-based companies to make that transition. So if you're constantly thinking about it and understanding that the real value of what you create is outside of you doing the work, it helps. And Built to Sell definitely is all about that.
I love that. And I'm thinking about this, Ethan. It seems like that's what you guys are doing. I mean, you're writing the book, teaching the executives how to use their assistant, and you have 1099 partners that you're empowering and teaching them how to be a good assistant. Talk about starting to work on the business, not in it, because you're creating a framework which can multiply, right? I'm sure you've thought of this.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, that's it. That's scaling. I mean, that's how we went from, you know, tripled the number of clients we've had. It's not because Stephanie and I are working more clients. You know, it's being that platform for other executive assistants, so they don't have to do the marketing, they don't have to do the sales or the contracts and agreements or the insurance or the you know, the collections and all of that. They just get to do good work, and yet they are creating their own portfolio of business. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, there's other ideas in terms of how we can grow and where we're going. But that's, you know, the 3 to 5 to 7 year plan. This year, 2022, is about the book and about continued growth and focusing on that. You know, trying to really stay focused, because, you know, we're trying to stay away from the shiny object syndrome. And, you know, 2021 was so successful. Let's just repeat it in 2022. And then we can really start to see where do we want to invest some resources to go and grow the business on other legs of the stool, if you will.
Keep growing it, man. Keep it up. Everyone knows Ethan. Show notes, there's links to keep in touch with Ethan there, but let's verbalize it. What's the best way for someone to either reach out to you and maybe connect on social media, or if you're not really on socials, is it the website, the email? How should we reach out and stay in touch?
I'd say there's 2 ways. If you're interested in a free consultation in terms of, am I ready to have an assistant? What are my options out there? You can go to our website and schedule a free consultation with me for a half hour. And we talk about you, your business, where you're at, and what support would be right for you. you may hear people say this and companies say this, but I really truly believe it. It's not about you coming to partner with ProAssisting. It's about us finding the right support for you. Because if we do right by you in that search and we get you the right support, you'll either pass us on to someone else, or when you're ready for us, then you'll come back. So it is a free consultation to talk about your business and what are some of the bottlenecks that you may be experiencing that an assistant may be able to relieve for you. We get into the nitty gritty there, and then LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn. It's just an amazing resource for connecting with assistants, as well as connecting with entrepreneurs and potential clients, and helping wherever we can.
Ethan, I plan on doubling my income this year and then giving you a call because I need the help as well. I appreciate you coming on the show. It was a great conversation. Flew by. We'll have to talk soon, and I might have to hire you, at least ask a couple questions, because the way you built your business is exactly how I want to build mine. I think the motto is great, and I have a million other questions. So I'm definitely going to have you on again, or at least pay you or something and get your time. I love it.
That's quite all right, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Thanks again for coming on the show, Ethan. It's been fun.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
Thanks for listening to Rochester Business Connections. Don't forget to share this, rate, and comment on your favorite platform. You can also email me, ben@balbertmarketing.com. Let's connect soon. Until then, keep thriving, everyone.